Okay, let's cut to the chase. We all know why you're here. You're here because of the stars of this show. Unfortunately, it's not this guy, but the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro and the Soundcore Air 2 Pro. And both of these, in their earlier versions, have a history for challenging higher-end earbuds for way less cash while throwing a lot of good features. Now, before we move forward, I want to clarify something. This is not a head-to-head contest, this is not a battle royale, not a showdown, because yeah, they're both in different price categories, but for one main reason though I'm doing this, is because if you've been keeping up with your news feeds, you know that both of these declare themselves, they actually marketed themselves as better and cheaper versions or alternatives of the AirPods Pro. That's a dangerous territory to get in, but that's the lens I'm going to judge both of these today. So do they succeed in their goal in toppling the Apples at the active noise cancellation earbuds game? Well, let's find out after these messages. TLDR, I think you're gonna like this one. Let's do it that way. Alright, here they are in the flesh, guys, the Soundcore Liberty Air 2 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro. And before we move forward, I realized I have an issue properly pronouncing buds from time to time, and it might sound like I'm saying butts. And if I do, please try not to giggle, guys. But anyways, let's hit up some specs first. Let's talk about price. The Soundcore goes for $130 retail, while the Samsung comes in at $199. It's good that both are available in few color options as well and share some common features such as active noise cancellation with pass-through mode, companion apps, USB-C charging and Qi charging available, touch controls, Bluetooth 5.0 on both of them with AAC and SBC support. The Samsung also adds what they call scalable codec that's reserved for Samsung devices only. Now, weight per earbud is 7 grams for the Buds Pro, while the Air 2 Pros ring in at 5 grams each. When it comes to battery life, I got 4.5 hours on time with the Samsung with active noise cancellation on and listening at roughly 65% volume. And the factory claims 5 hours, so we're kind of close. The Soundcore got me about 6.25 hours before dying, and this thing is rated at 7 hours according to the factory. Water resistance is IPX6 for the Samsung, a healthy bump from the IPX2 in the Buds Plus. And the Air 2 Pros have IPX4, which is actually a step down from the older Air 2 that had IPX5. And finally, in terms of ear tip options in the box, the Soundcore trumps the Samsung big time with 9 different sizes, 9 guys, versus the standard 3. Now, let's take a closer look at the cases, and in the Samsung's, case, this engagement ring style box looks kind of familiar, doesn't it? It's reminiscent of the Buds Live more than the OG Buds Plus, which was more elongated. Now, the plastics on both are high quality. The Soundcore has a good amount of friction on it, while the Samsung's in of itself is a little slippery. And it's not a problem though, because the tiny dimensions allow it to be held in the hand really easily like this. It's practically a quarter of a size in almost every dimension than the Soundcores. Now, this thing, even though it weighs lighter at 57 grams versus 61, it feels more like a solid rock than this guy because all the weight is condensed in one little tiny space. Now, the Samsung's build quality is also very tight. The design, just like the Soundcore, both of them are actually very simple, symmetrical, and really inoffensive, letting, in this case, the Samsung, letting that tiny size do all the talking. There's a groove on all 3 corners of the lid that allows your fingertips to easily grab the lid at any time when you want to open it, which is really nice and convenient. Out back is a USB-C charging port, down below is the wireless charging surface, and up front is one single battery status light right here. Now, when you open the magnetized lid, check this out. You see a storage space that's optimally yet wonderfully designed to incorporate everything in here. The buds, the circuitry, the battery, the hinge, everything is really well thought out in such a tiny space. Now, speaking of the lid, the hinge on it especially is, I think, the weakest part of the whole ensemble. It locks in place really well, like so. When you pop it open, you can see the spring just locks in place, but it tends to close easily when any kind of torque is applied. And as you can see, the inner moldings are all matte plastic, so thank goodness they're not fingerprint or grease magnets. There's a charging LED light right here. The charging pins for the earbuds are right there, and thank goodness the cavity is also very shallow, making it easy to clean. Now let me reinsert one of the earbuds and let's do the magnet shake test. I'm going to keep the lid open so it doesn't flop on me. And that failed right away. So for what it's worth, if you drop these guys, the earbuds are just gonna fly everywhere. Now over to the Soundcores, and as I mentioned earlier, the case is simple and symmetrical just like the Samsung's, with the build, in this case the build and plastics quality, a highlight at this price point. And I'm not sure what Soundcore did. This is actually black, but look at the lid. It looks like it's translucent or some kind of reflective surface is applied to it, but it's really nice effect. Now out back here is the USB-C charging port, and right next to it is the pairing/battery status button. When you press it, the corresponding LED lights up front light up. Down here is the wireless charging surface, and just like the Liberty 2 Pro, my favorite part of this case is the unique slider lid that doubles really as a fidget. When you're bored, you can play with this all day if you want, because it's really solidly built. There's barely any flex. It's really a smooth, strong sliding action, even though the rail itself is plastic. I think Soundcore has perfected this, and it really is nice. I really like this part. But once you open it, piano black plastics abound, guys. You will need to break out your cleaning wipes quite often. This thing is just gonna show fingerprints and dust really easily. So removing the earbuds from the case is relatively easy, even though I still prefer the OG's method where you just drop it into the slot. Here in this case, you have to grab it just right, and even then, you still bump. The top of the earbuds still bump into the edge of the lid like so. It's not very smooth of an action. Most of you don't care. I don't find it a huge problem, but I thought I'll mention that anyway. So when I remove this, you'll see the charging pins right there with 1/2 of the magnets. And speaking of the magnets, let's pop this back in and do the shake test. And yeah, this thing also fails. I'm not sure what's up with that. So thumbs down to that result. Alright guys, so here is the Buds Pro, and you can say goodbye to the bean-shaped buds, at least temporarily, and back to that Chernobyl gas mask profile of the Buds Plus, albeit a little bit smaller now. Now, the matte black plastics here on the back here are the same as that on the case, while the piano black plastics still have no practical place on anything that has high finger traffic, in my opinion. One downside to this shiny plastics and the smaller size combo is how hard they are to handle and to make adjustments in your ear, especially when you're sweaty or something similar. It's really hard to hold, so something to take note of. Now, the touch control surface is on the outer cap right here, and it understands single, double, and triple tap as well as hold. And there are 3 mics in each earbud that handles phone calls as well as noise cancellation. One is behind this grill right there, and one right here. I'm not sure if you can see that port, and also one is internal. There are 2 proximity sensors, as you can see from this window, one there and one right here that handles auto pause play when you take these things in and out of your ear. Really convenient. There is a venting port up front that helps with staging. And in the business end of things, there's an 11mm woofer that works in conjunction with a 6.5mm tweeter. Really impressive stuff, and we'll talk about sound quality in a second. Now, there's oval ear tips. As we pop this off, there's oval ear tips with an oval ear opening right here, and it's covered with a really nice chrome grill. But I'm not sure if you can notice this one. There's an alignment slot right there on both sides, and that matches up with the ear tips. And this is the pain in my butt, guys. It really is painfully slow to put these on and off. You just have to align it just right and pop it back in and hope and pray that it actually works. And most of the time, I just have to bash it in and really finagle it to get it to work. So this is one of the hardest ear tips I've ever had to put on in a long time. Now, let's check out the Air 2 Pros. And just like the first gen, these have that same stem type design. Again, with good quality materials, really well put together, and that slightly slippery surface on the external face. The touch control area is right here at the top, and it accepts double tap and hold only. Now, one thing I noticed though, even though this is really well put together, when I have this in my ear, if I run my fingers along the stem, it sounds really hollow. So it feels cheap that way, and it's the same thing with the first gen, so I'm not sure why they continue with this. Now, just like the Samsung, there's 3 mics per side that handles phone calls as well as noise cancellation. One is at the bottom here, another one at the top edge right there. I'm not sure you can see that. And one right behind the ear tip there. There's a venting port at the top as well as an LED indicator light, not bright at all, which is really nice for the person sitting next to you. Charging pins are right here, and the magnet, the other half of the magnet is right between those. Now, in the business end of things, there's an 11mm driver that Soundcore calls Pure Notes, and we'll talk about the sound quality later on as well. And at the end here, you see the gold colored grill. That's a trademark of Soundcore, as well as that pattern that kind of looks like a sakura flower. Now, the ear tips are some of my favorites of anything in the industry. They're so easy to put on and off because of that hardened center core. And also the ear tips in this case, at least in this model, they're also marked by size inside, so you never know if you lose them or just misplace them. And you pick them up, you know what size you have at any given time. So I'll just pop this on real quick and see how quick that is, and it's done. So guys, if you haven't heard already, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs and only you can get me there. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel by mashing and killing the button down below and tell your friends and family about it as well. Thank you in advance for your help guys. Now back to the program and get me to 10,000 subs. Alright guys, now let's take a quick look at the companion apps for both of these devices. And on the left side we have the Galaxy wearable, and on the right side of course we have the Soundcore app. And I've delved into deeper detail on both of these individually in the past, so I'll link them up below and you can watch them at your own time. But I just want to highlight some of the individual quirks and features for the Buds Pro as well as the Air 2 Pros in this case. So on the Galaxy side, you see the battery level, at least the Galaxy app shows the percentages and the battery level. In the Soundcore, you see it just shows battery level of the device. There's no percentages. So when you have both of the earbuds out of the case and in your ear, as you can see, the battery case disappears. And then if you're also on your mono mode, it also does the same thing, but it keeps everything off. There's no noise cancellation or ambient mode control. But once you have both your earbuds in your ear, you notice that the active noise cancellation comes on and there's two different levels. I'm not sure why there are two different levels, but that's kind of silly. Ambient control also you can change to different levels. And on the Soundcore side, it's a little bit of a different implementation in terms of how you control your noise cancellation and such. So when you go to ambient sound right here and tap noise cancellation, you can cycle through the different modes, noise cancellation on, transparency. And this is new compared to the Q30 that we looked at last week. There was only one mode, but now you can do different fully transparent and vocal mode as well. Normal is off. So noise cancellation, as you can see, there's transport, indoor and outdoor, and custom is also new to these earbuds, even compared to the Q30s. In this case, you can just turn the dial and control the levels of noise cancellation, which is interesting. I wish there was some kind of indicator of what each quadrant means. When I turn this dial, I can't really tell because it's such a small difference in noise cancellation. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. So a Soundcore, maybe you can label these. That would be super helpful. Anyways, in terms of controls, both of these devices fall behind in terms of customization. I'm not sure what's going on there because Samsung and Soundcore are usually pretty ahead of the game, especially Samsung. If you look here, the only thing you can play with is touch and hold. What's up with that? And then on the Soundcore side, let's go back to the home screen here and go to controls. You can play with double tap and hold, and these are the only default controls that are available on the earbuds. So I'm kind of shocked not to see actually, the single or triple tap. However, Soundcore excels in one area that a lot of other companies are dropping the ball in, is the equalizer, or how you customize your sound. Let's go to equalizer here real quick. And under this, you see Hear ID default as well as custom. Hear ID is basically, it runs a hearing test for you, and then it customizes your sound based on that. It's really, really effective. Under equalizer, there's defaults, and the presets are a lot. It's not as many as the Q30 or the Liberty 2 Pros, but it's quite a lot for you to play with. And under custom, you have an 8-band equalizer, and then you can name it as you need to. On the Samsung side, all you have, let's go back there. On the Samsung side, all you have is presets, and that's all you can see. There's not even a custom, not even a 5-band or 3-band equalizer, for crying out loud. Oh yes, there's one thing I want to show you guys. Let's go back to the home screen here, and on the top right here, go to options. And you see this, wearing detection. This is actually not available on most Air 2 Pros out there. It's available for alpha or beta testing for a select few users, and I've been lucky to test this. And it really works well, guys. They don't have a dedicated proximity sensor, but I think they use some kind of algorithm combined with the gyro sensors built into it to sense whether it's in your ear or out of ear. It works really well, and I hope a Soundcore activates this. Now, back to the Galaxy Buds Pro. The advanced features, they're usually reserved for Samsung devices. So like the seamless earbud connection that you see here, it's meant for Samsung devices with Samsung accounts. That's unfortunate. There's also Bixby Always Hearing. And here, this hearing enhancements, this is a recent addition to from a firmware update that I got last week or earlier this week, where you can shift the sound balance left and right. So if you have hearing loss on one side of your ear, you just shift it how you need it, which is really, really nice. Wow, it is nippy out here right now, but we're going to go ahead and do the Bluetooth distance test. I have some Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater, one of my favorite songs of all time, playing on Deezer in high fidelity on my Pixel. We're going to put the phone ADA on my deck right there. I'm going to just walk around the back of the house to the side, pass line of sight, and see when these things disconnect from each other. So we're going to test the Samsungs first, and then move on to the Soundcore. And both of these have Bluetooth 5.0, so it should last. There's the phone right there, the shiny little thing at the end of my deck, and where I'm standing is around 25 feet. Both of these have Bluetooth 5.0, as I mentioned, and should last around 30 to 33 feet before we start hearing sputtering. And right around here, as expected, 32, 33 feet. We're seeing that behavior spot on. So I'm going to keep walking until I get a disconnect tone right around here. So it's around 40, 41 feet, and it's expected. So you guys can also see the fit on these. Samsung, I think, learned quite a lot between the Buds Plus and the Beans. And these guys are an amalgamation of both. They are so small, they sit in my ears. You can barely see that they're protruding in it. It's really nice. It kind of looks like earrings though, depending on the color you choose. But they're really, really nice. And they lock in the intertragic notch right here at the bottom of my ear, and it's really, really comfortable. So let's move on to the Soundcores next. All right, guys, I switched out to the Soundcores now, and we're walking around the back of my house to the side again. And my expectations is these are going to perform the same as the Samsungs. They're going to start sputtering around now. Yes, maybe around 2 to 3 feet less than the Samsungs, but around the same, so no big deal. We're going to walk again till we get a full disconnect. Yep, right around 40 feet, and it happens. So really within the Bluetooth 5.0 specifications. But one thing interesting, just like the Soundcore Q30s that I looked at last week and I complained about popping sounds, these guys are doing the same too. It's not as loud at all. It's really, really soft, but it's hearing a lot of clicking and popping noises in my ear. It's like the active noise cancellation is going in and out of sync when the signal strength is really weak. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Soundcore, maybe you can figure this out. Maybe it's a firmware fix. Maybe it's not, but it is what it is. You can see also how these guys fit in my ear. It's your typical AirPod slash stem style look and feel. So if you're a fan of it, go for this. If you prefer the Samsungs, which I really like the fit on those two, that might be more your thing. All right, guys, now let's check out the microphones on these to see how well they do during Bluetooth phone calls. And I'm gonna walk towards the busy road right here to see how well they do in a noisy environment, and we can get some good samples, sound samples. I'm going to switch between the camera and the Soundcores to see how well they do. Here comes the car. How's that sound? I tested these earlier and I was kind of disappointed, not in a bad way. I was kind of expecting more because these have 6 mics compared to the 4 on the Air 2s. And if you compare the sample, I'm going to link it up here with the Air 2s. You hear there's only a marginal improvement. Here's more traffic. I'm going to try to walk closer. Geez, it's slippery right here. And you can probably hear I'm going to walk around this way so I don't slip and die. And you can hear also my heavy feet on the frozen ice. You can hear that. And you can hear the limits. It hits its limits pretty easily. It's marginally better, again, as I mentioned, than the Air 2s, but not by much. But anyways, I'm kind of curious now about the Samsung. So let's move on to that and see what that's like. Alrighty then, I switched out the Soundcores for the Samsung Buds Pro, and we're gonna walk down to the street again to get some sound samples. How's that? I prefer the sound intonation on the Samsungs a little bit better. My voice sounds a little bit more natural. You can comment down below to tell me if I'm wrong or not. But I prefer the sound of these compared to the Soundcores. But between the two, there's barely any traffic. Here comes another car, so we can get more samples here. How does that sound? Here comes more. Yay! It's not bad. It's a little bit better than the Soundcores, and of course it costs a little bit more, so I would expect that to perform a little bit better. But between the two, let's put it down this way. Between the Soundcore and the Samsung, I really like these two. You can be happy and comfortable using these outdoors because they are a marginal improvement over their older siblings, so that's a good thing. But anyways, back to the studio. Now let's hit up the positives, and because we have so much to cover between the two earbuds, I'm just going to try to rapid fire through the list and hopefully cover some ground that way. But we all know how much I like to talk, so we'll see how that goes. Now the first 3 applies to both, and my first favorite thing of all is the sound quality. Both of these, you'll be happy with either one. If you like more warmth, go with the Samsung. I think it's because of the AKG tuning as well as that dedicated woofer and tweeter. But if you like something more technical, all throughout the range, the Soundcores are excellent as well. Both of these have shallow V profiles. Maybe the Samsung has a little bit higher tail end of the V, but both of these are really nice and solid and should please most listeners. When I use my test song, the Indiana Jones theme song, I can hear all the nuances. Everything is well controlled and very tight. Now the Apples lie somewhere in between in terms of sound temperature or profile. It's a little bit warm and technical at the same time, so if you like that, go with the Apple. It is also good to know that both of these models continue their tradition of being price competitive by offering a lot of features for a lot less cash than higher, more expensive models. Sure, you can argue that both of these respectively cost $30, $40 more than their older models, but now they have active noise cancellation and even more tech. The other thing that I really enjoy is the phone call quality. There's no more apologizing to your listeners about the poor sound quality. Like the Soundcores have made the most improvements since the first Air 2s with their 4 mic array. They were pretty good in the first place, but now with the 6 mic array, they are so much better. The Samsungs have always been pretty good in this area too, so you're nothing to be embarrassed about by using these for phone calls. Sure, they're a little bit behind the AirPods, but they're really close now. So let's switch over now to the Soundcore Air 2 Pros and some of the things that I do like about it. The first one of all is active noise cancellation. I'm not sure what Soundcore uses, what voodoo or magic or algorithm they use, but it's really effective at nullifying the low frequencies as well as conversations. If my memory serves me right, compared to the AirPods Pro, in terms of performance, these things are on par, if not slightly better. It's really that good. You have to make sure though you have a good seal between the ear tips and your ear, and that way it can perform really well. The second thing and the last thing that I really like about the Soundcores is the Hear ID system in your app. The fact that it exists in a $130 device, something that belongs in higher end devices most of the time, that it runs a hearing test for you and adjusts the equalizer based on what you can hear and cannot hear and what you prefer, is super awesome. So here now are some of my favorite things about the Samsung specifically, and the first one of all is the size and the design. The earbuds and the case, they're so compact and so small, they barely make a bulge in my pocket when I store them. And the earbuds barely protrude out of my ear, and they can withstand vigorous activities, and they stay comfortable for hours on end. And the design, it's nice and clean. I really like it. It maintains that Samsung signature look without copycatting anybody. The second thing is the bump in the water resistance. That means now I can shower with it with IPX7. And thirdly, and this is my favorite thing of all, is the introduction of voice detection. I'm seeing more and more of this in 2021, and I'm thinking this is a new trend. But how this thing works, and it's really cool, is when you start talking, pass-through mode automatically comes on. It picks up your voice and it comes on. You never have to press a button or cup your ear cup or anything like that. It just happens automatically. There are a couple improvements I hope that it can work on. This is reducing the duration that it stays on. Right now it's I think 10 or 5 seconds, and it stays on, and if you wait, you have to wait for it to shut off. I wish I can customize that. The other thing is, I think the algorithm needs improvement. When I clear my throat, it comes on, but when I whistle, it doesn't. That's kind of weird. So here we are, guys, at the negatives, and the first one of all applies to both. So if you watch enough of my channel, you know how much I don't like touch controls. In the year 2020, I complained about the Buds Live, the Buds Plus, and the Air 2s. I just did not like them. In the year 2021, things have not improved. Both of these models register my touches probably 6 or 7 out of 10 times I press it. That's not good reliability, especially when you're trying to do double taps or triple taps. It's just not very good at all. And the other thing is, I just never liked the idea of pressing something deeper into my ear. Alright, now let's check out some of the negatives of the Samsung specifically, and the first one on my list is the size. Yes, the very same thing that I praised earlier about how compact it is. There is a handling issue to be had, because we kind of alluded to this in the close-ups earlier. Say if you have sweaty hands or sweaty fingers and try to grab this, you don't get much of a good purchase. And also when you do grab it, you kind of inadvertently activate some of the commands like I am right now. And also when you do pull this out of your ear or put it back in, your fingers, at least for me, my thumb is always covering one of the proximity sensor windows, so it kind of doesn't work obviously because of that. And finally, we come to the Soundcore, and the first thing that makes my no-go list is it feels less secure than the original model, the Air 2s. For some reason, they designed the ear tips to be really close and flush to the body, so when I have this in my ear canal, for example, and I yawn or open my jaw in any way, it feels like it wants to pop out every single time, so I'm always fiddling with it constantly. It never actually falls out, but it's just less reassuring than the original model. And my least favorite thing of all is the default control configuration. It's really pathetic that all you get is double tap and hold, and the fact that it's not customizable in any way. Come on. So here are my final thoughts. I think the tech behind what used to be reserved for higher end, you have to pay to play kind of features like voice detection, active noise cancellation, auto pause play, and the like are finally trickling down the totem pole, especially in year 2021. So brands like Samsung and Soundcore are great benefactors of this, and in this case, in this scenario, both of them nailed it with both of these models, with great active noise cancellation performance, sound quality tuning that's so good, and aggressive feature to price quotient. And also, I think they raised the bar yet again for Apple to really take a look at what they're doing, so a little competition doesn't hurt. With all that said, I want to give the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro and the Soundcore Air 2 Pros a gear up score of 8.5 out of 10 each. Both of these are really well balanced for offering great price with a lot of features for really good performance. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and you know what? Y'all are just the best audience ever. I love y'all very much. Please come back next Friday for a new one. We're gonna be checking out the Sony WH-1000XM4s. These things are really awesome. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel. If you'd like to see more content like this, if you enjoy the work that I do, mash and kill that button down below and tell your friends and family about it. That's the only way to help me grow this channel. And also, if you'd like to help financially, you can visit my Patreon page down here and get your name shouted out right here like Barbecue Jones. So visit my Patreon page, check it out how you can do that. And also remember the thumbs up if you like this video, that's super important too, and comment nicely down below. And thumbs down. Thumbs down, and this one's important, guys. It's a little PSA, I'll consider it. Thumbs down to the COVID numbers going up. Yes, it's really sad to see our numbers just getting worse all around the world. And I talked about this last year, how important it is to keep yourself clean and mask up and such. And I repeat this again. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of your community. Consider it like paying it forward, because you know you're not just doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for everyone else. So take care of each other, and I'll see y'all next week. Remember to do something kind and loving for somebody. As always, it starts with you guys. I love y'all very much. See y'all next time. Peace out.